And what if the pain you feel today didn't begin in this life? And what if that anxiety, that causeless sadness, that tension you've always carried in your body aren't yours? What if they come from something you experienced before you were born? Imagine for a moment that every part of your body hides a memory, that every symptom, every phobia, every strange reaction is a clue, a fragment of a story you don't remember but continue to live. Edgar Cayce, the man who spoke while sleeping, revealed something that still shakes those who dare to listen today. Your body is the container of all your lives. What you didn't resolve, what was torn from you, what you did, what you suffered, it's still there, in your organs, in your bones, in your breath. And the most unsettling part, all of this continues to affect you now, without you knowing it. This video isn't just a story, it's a map, a mirror, a warning. What you're about to discover in the next few minutes could give you answers you've been searching for years. Or it could make you doubt everything you thought you understood about yourself. But if you stay until the end, you'll start to see your body with new eyes. And maybe, just maybe, you'll begin to remember what you never knew you knew. Imagine waking up with a fear you don't understand, a sadness with no history, or a physical pain no doctor can explain. Something you carry inside, like an ancient shadow not born of this life. That's where Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, comes in, with a statement that shakes everything you believe about your body. The traumas of your past lives are engraved in your cells. It's not a metaphor, it's not poetry, it's literal. Your body is a living archive of everything you have ever been. The scars of the soul don't disappear with death. They linger, repeat, reincarnate. Cayce said that many of our physical illnesses aren't caused by viruses, bacteria, or accidents. No, they are the result of unresolved experiences from previous lives. A soldier who died pierced by a spear might return centuries later with unexplained abdominal pain. A woman who was drowned in a past life might be born with a paralyzing phobia of water. We're not talking about fairy tales or pretty ideas about karma. We're talking about real, present symptoms that manifest without apparent medical cause. Cayce called this the vibrational pattern of the soul. What you do, what you live, what you suffer stays with you, even if you change bodies. The body, according to Cayce, is like land that never forgets what was sown in it. Each life is a seed. Some grow as flowers, others as thorns. If in a previous life someone experienced great loss, betrayal, deep guilt, and didn't confront it, that emotional weight remains suspended, like unresolved energy. In the next incarnation, this burden seeks an outlet. Where? In the body, in the eye, in the skin, the bones, the organs, the way you walk, breathe, get sick. The most brutal part is that often there's no way to know consciously. You just feel it. Cayce performed his readings in a trance state, and there, described with surgical detail how a current ailment could originate from an experience hundreds or thousands of years ago. He didn't need to see you, didn't need to touch you. He closed his eyes, entered a trance, and connected with your soul's record. He would say things like, "This man suffers from asthma because in a past life, he was an Egyptian priest who punished others by preventing them from breathing. This cause and effect connection was invisible to others, but for Cayce, it was as clear as a river of black ink staining everything it touches. The most impressive thing is that his readings weren't vague or general. They were specific. Lower back pain, spear wound, constant migraines, execution by decapitation in a medieval life, phobia of crowds, public execution for heresy. And when the person heard this reading, something inside them stirred, as if the soul said, "Yes, that happened to me." Some experienced physical improvements just by knowing the cause. Others needed to work through the trauma with natural methods, visualizations, or lifestyle changes. But the key was understanding. Your body is telling you about things that don't come from this life. The skin, according to Cayce, is one of the soul's most honest canvases. Many skin conditions are connected to deep shame, unresolved guilt, or traumas where identity was attacked. A man with severe psoriasis, for example, had been an officer in a past life who tortured prisoners. In this life, his body expressed an unconscious need to shed the skin carrying that memory. Cayce didn't say this with judgment, didn't condemn him, just showed it as a spiritual equation. What you don't heal manifests. What you hide, the body shouts. Even bones hold memory. Some people feel sharp pain in a leg, a fracture they never had, a sense of instability accompanying them since childhood. Cayce said, this could be the echo of a mutilation in a past life, a fatal fall, imprisonment where bones were broken under torture. The memory of that experience is imprinted on the soul, and when this soul takes a new body, that memory is transferred like a hidden genetic command. It can't be seen on X-rays, can't be operated on, but it can be understood, and with that, healing begins. The digestive system is also a frequent stage for ancient traumas, colon problems, ulcers, chronic gastritis. Cayce revealed that many of these conditions relate to poorly digested emotions from other lives. A merchant betrayed by his own family in ancient Greece might reincarnate with a tendency to somatize betrayal as stomach acidity. Someone who died poisoned might carry an unconscious rejection of certain foods. The body remembers, even if the mind can't access the file. The stomach, liver, intestines continue processing that story. Sexual traumas also leave deep marks. Cayce spoke of people with unexplained dysfunctions, intimacy blocks, or uncontrollable impulses that seem to have no clear origin, connecting them to past lives involving abuse, forced vows of chastity, or forbidden relationships ending in tragedy. The soul carries not only memories, but also unresolved emotions. Fear, guilt, shame are imprinted on the tissues, and if not released, become repetitive patterns manifesting in destructive relationships or physical discomfort. Cayce's vision wasn't pessimistic. He didn't say we were condemned to repeat. He said the body is a messenger, a translator. Each symptom is a letter from the soul saying, this still hurts. Not to punish you, but to invite you to heal. But to do so, you need to look beyond this life. Beyond time, beyond the name you have now. You need to ask yourself, what have I been? What have I done? What wounds do I carry inside that I don't even know belong to me? It's not about believing or not believing in past lives. It's about understanding that there's something inside you that doesn't fit your current story, yet it's there. It gets activated, limits you, haunts you. Cayce merely offered a key, a possibility. What if what hurts you didn't begin in this life? And what if what your body is trying to tell you is that the soul never forgets? In that case, you don't just need a doctor, you need to remember. Some pains appear like ghosts. They come, pass through you and leave. They have no clear medical cause, don't respond to conventional treatments, yet they rob you of sleep, energy, balance. Edgar Cayce claimed that many of these ailments have an origin beyond the physical, beyond the psychological. They come from the deep history of the soul. They are old, ancient wounds that the current body carries like an invisible mark. Because the soul, when it reincarnates, doesn't start from scratch. It brings baggage loaded with emotions, experiences, decisions, and traumas, and the body is the mirror where all that is reflected. One of Cayce's most chilling examples concerned people with partial blindness or unexplained vision problems. In his readings, he identified that often these individuals had suffered traumatic deaths related to their eyes in past lives. People blinded as punishment, soldiers wounded by arrows in the face, or witnesses to horrors so intense that their soul, in the next life, preferred not to see fully, and the body obeys. Spiritual memory becomes a physical condition. It's as if the mind says, I don't want to see anymore, and the eyes respond with a failure science cannot repair. Cayce also spoke of repetitive patterns appearing in certain people. They always injure the same side of the body, always get sick at the same time of year, always develop the same type of destructive relationship. None of this is coincidental. According to him, they are deep soul imprints manifesting through the body. A woman who always suffers pain in her right arm may have died from a fatal wound in that same arm centuries ago. A man who enters a senseless depression every winter might be reliving energies from a death that occurred in that season. The soul relives, The body obeys. The key concept Cayce used was the continuity of the soul. For him, we were not human beings having spiritual experiences. We were spiritual beings having multiple human lives. And in each life, what we don't heal is stored. It doesn't disappear. It's stored as an energetic vibration that, upon rebirth, restructures itself within the new body. That is, we don't just inherit genes from our parents, we also inherit memories from the soul. And these memories have power. They can make us sick, limit us, but they can also guide us toward healing if we know how to interpret them. One of the most impactful cases Cayce reported was of a boy born with severe leg problems. Doctors found no explanation. There was no injury or apparent genetic defect. In trance, Cayce revealed that this boy had been a warrior in Asia centuries ago who died after being crushed by a horse in battle. The trauma was so brutal, so sudden, that his soul carried that wound into the next body. Although the bones were new, the trauma's vibration remained active, and the body, without understanding, responded with pain and weakness. Only by understanding this and working with alternative therapies focused on that memory did the boy begin to improve. Emotions are key in this mechanism. According to Cayce, intense emotions like fear, guilt, hatred, or the desire for revenge, if unprocessed, become embedded in the soul like toxic seeds. In the next life, these seeds blossom in the body. For example, a person unable to forgive a betrayal in a past life might develop heart problems or affective blocks in this one. Another who lived in constant fear might exhibit respiratory disorders because the soul is still breathing the same fear and the lungs manifest it. It's a silent but brutally accurate language. And we're not just talking about diseases, it's also about unexplained physical blockages. People who can't move freely, who feel weight on their shoulders for no reason, or who have a muted voice as if something or someone had silenced them. Cayce said these people might be reliving ancient punishments. Someone who was a slave, someone who died hanging, someone burned for speaking out. And although in this life there are no ropes, chains or fire, the body reacts as if they were still there, because for the soul, time doesn't exist. Everything happens in an eternal now, and if it's not released, it repeats. Cayce maintained that every part of the body has a direct spiritual connection to a past experience. It's not just biology, it's history. Knees, for example, relate to humility or submission. Someone who abused power in previous lives might reincarnate with fragile knees as a symbolic reminder. Hands are linked to action. Those who caused harm with them or died bound might carry problems in their fingers, skin, nerves. The back, especially the upper area, tends to carry unexpressed emotions, ancient secrets, or burdens the soul hasn't released. The most striking aspect is that Cayce didn't see this as punishment. It wasn't judgment or vengeful karma. It was simply a natural law of spiritual cause and effect. What you sow, you reap. What you deny returns. What you don't release transforms into physical weight. And if you have the courage to look inward, to ask yourself what part of you isn't from this life, you can begin to understand why it hurts where it hurts, why you feel what you feel, why the body is telling you something no one else can hear. In some of his accounts, Cayce mentioned cases of people who, upon understanding their soul's history, experienced immediate liberation. It was as if the body said, "Thank you, I don't need to hold this anymore." Chronic pains disappeared, cycles broke. It wasn't magic, it was awareness. Because the body is obedient, but also wise. It guards, protects, and repeats until the soul learns the lesson. Only then does it stop hurting. Only then does it let go. But to get there, you need to ask the question few dare to ask. What if what's happening to me isn't mine, but belongs to someone I once was? Cayce believed the soul chooses where to be born, with which body, in what environment, and often chooses difficult situations to confront what was left pending. The body, then, is not just a vehicle. It's a map, a code, a message written in flesh, bone, blood, and memory. And if you learn to read it, you can discover not only why you suffer, but also how to free yourself. And that's just the beginning. In the next part, we'll delve into how trapped emotions not only create physical symptoms, but literally shape your body's form, posture, voice, gestures, and even genetic diseases. Because, according to Cayce, your body is a sculpture carved by everything you've lived. Even before you were born, no matter how much exercise you do, how well you watch your diet, or how many cosmetic treatments you try, there's something about your body's shape that doesn't change, something that seems etched with invisible fire. Edgar Cayce said this is precisely what comes from past lives. It's not genetic, it's not learned, it's your soul manifesting physically. Because it's not just illnesses or pains that have ancient roots. Your posture, gestures, voice, the way you walk or move your hands, all are part of the soul's language. And often, that language is a silent scream loaded with history. Think of someone with eternally slumped shoulders. It could simply be bad posture, or it could be the reflection of a past life where they carried a brutal emotional burden, the kind that bends anyone. Or a person who always walks looking down, avoiding eye contact without realizing it. Perhaps they were executed in public or humiliated before a crowd. In this life, without knowing why, their body chooses to hide. And no matter how much you talk about self-esteem, their body remembers something their mind has forgotten. Cayce went beyond the body as a machine. For him, the body was a kind of energetic sculpture. Each trauma, each unresolved emotion, carved a part of that sculpture. This explained physical deformities, permanent muscle tension, unexplained asymmetries. Everything originated in the soul's energy. He said some people come into the world with jaw rigidity because they died screaming, or have difficulty moving their fingers because their hands were mutilated in another life. It's not punishment, it's repetition, it's body memory carried across lifetimes. One of the most disturbing aspects Cayce addressed was how ancient traumas not only affect the body, but literally shape the physical character of the face. There were cases of people developing a permanent frown or an expression of sadness, even when happy. According to Cayce, this could be the echo of a life of intense suffering tattooed onto the facial muscles. Dull eyes, clenched jaw, perpetually tense foreheads, the face as a mirror of what was lived before, a mask the soul didn't remove upon reincarnating. And when it comes to the voice, things get even darker. Some people can't scream. Others speak so softly they can barely be heard. Some stutter without medical explanation. Cayce revealed that many of these vocal blocks are directly related to traumas from other lives. Hangings, beheadings, vows of silence, brutal punishments for speaking the truth. The throat becomes a zone of energetic censorship, and even though nothing threatens them in this life, the body continues to obey the ancient command: be quiet, don't speak, they will hurt you. The same happens with the eyes. Some people can't hold a gaze, others have a hard, hostile look, as if always on guard. Cayce said the eyes show what the soul has seen. If you witnessed atrocities, saw your children die, observed a massacre unable to intervene, that emotional charge gets trapped. And in the next life, the eyes remember it. It's not just personality. It's energy crystallized in form, the way of looking, the way of seeing reality, the way of avoiding it. Even the inner voice, the constant mental dialogue accompanying you daily, can be contaminated by voices from the past. It's not madness, it's energetic inheritance. Some people feel shame for things they never did, guilt for mistakes not made in this life. Cayce explained that these emotions don't come from the present. They are echoes of past decisions left unresolved, and since they cannot disappear, the body and mind drag them along as if still current. And so, without knowing why, someone feels like a fraud or feels they must pay a debt they don't understand. There are also patterns in the body activated by certain people's presence. Cayce said the soul recognizes other souls. If in a past life you were betrayed by someone, and in this life that soul reincarnates near you as family, partner, friend, your body knows, feels it. It might react with tension, sweating, palpitations, without rational explanation. These are ancient alarms activating without asking. And the most brutal part is that we often end up repeating the story. We get betrayed again, suffer again, surrender again without defense because the body remembers, because the energy keeps spinning. Another fascinating element is how the body adapts to what hasn't healed. For example, someone imprisoned or confined in a previous life might develop a physical need for space in this one, or conversely, a hunched posture as if still living in a cell. Others who were victims of physical abuse might permanently tense their muscles without realizing it, as if expecting a blow that never comes. The body becomes a reflection of the emotional history you carry within, and that history often didn't begin when you were born. There are even cases where the body develops allergies or aversions without explanation, a person unable to touch certain fabrics, another reacting violently to a specific perfume smell. Cayce said this could be linked to objects present at the time of a past death, a cloth wrapping you in a fire, an aroma in the air when you were murdered. All this gets recorded as an energetic alert, and when that signal reappears in the new life, the body reacts with fear, rejection, allergy, not out of whim, but protection. But the most disconcerting part is when Cayce spoke of genetic diseases. He asserted that in certain cases, what manifests as biological inheritance isn't genetic but karmic. A person is born with a rare disease and everyone says, it's hereditary. But Cayce saw something more, a soul's choice, a pre-birth decision to experience certain limitations as part of its evolutionary path. It's not punishment, it's learning. Sometimes it's even redemption. The soul chooses the body it needs to face what was left pending. And that body, though it may seem damaged, is exactly what that soul needed. Nothing in your body is random. Nothing. Everything has a story. Even what you hate most about yourself, even what you never understood. Cayce said the body doesn't lie. It can keep secrets, but it always expresses them. And if you learn to look beyond the surface, if you dare to read the signs, you can understand not only who you are, but who you were. Because the soul speaks through the body. And if you listen carefully, you'll start remembering things you never knew you knew. In the next part, we'll enter even more unsettling territory. How past life traumas affect not only your body but also your bonds, relationships, obsessions, addictions. Because Cayce revealed that many emotional patterns destroying you today come from pacts made centuries ago. Some relationships trap you like a spider web. You return to them again and again, even though they hurt you, even though you know it's unhealthy, even though something inside you screams to run, but you can't. You're stuck, bound, hypnotized. Edgar Cayce said these bonds aren't formed in this life but are reunions, soul pacts, invisible contracts from previous existences. And the most disturbing part is that these ties, when marked by pain, affect not only your emotions but also your body. According to Cayce, many physical traumas don't arise from nothing but are the body's responses to ancient bonds that ravaged the soul. He spoke of people developing illnesses after meeting a specific person. It wasn't coincidence, it was reactivation. The soul recognized that other soul. It remembered what happened before. Betrayal, abandonment, violent death. And the body responded with anxiety, insomnia, migraines, uncontrollable palpitations. Because when two souls reunite with an unsettled debt, the body perceives it before the mind does. Some people can't stop loving those who destroy them. Others feel immediate rejection towards someone who has done them no harm. Cayce said this is because they've met before, and what happened then is still alive now. A woman who falls madly in love with a manipulative man in this life might be repeating a bond from a life where he was her owner, her executioner, her jailer. And though they have new bodies today, the soul remembers, and the body suffers. Because when the soul conflicts, it manifests in the flesh. Joint pain, chest blockages, throat pressure. The body knows when you're repeating a story. Cayce also spoke of children born with special conditions, autism, paralysis, congenital diseases, not from judgment, but from a deep understanding of the soul. He said that often these souls chose those conditions as a way to heal past bonds with their parents. It could involve relationships with abandonment, harm, even murder. In the new life, roles change. The perpetrator might reincarnate as a dependent child and the parent's soul as the caregiver to balance the scales. The child's body manifests an energy carrying something older than its birth. And it's not just about punishments or karma. There are also beautiful reunions, souls seeking each other life after life to accompany, to love each other ever more freely. But even these ties can carry weight. Cayce explained that sometimes souls who were lovers in past lives reincarnate under new conditions. One is male, the other female. Or they switch family roles, or live in contexts where they cannot be together. The body feels it just the same. It quickens, trembles, cries without understanding why. Because the soul's energy isn't erased, and when it encounters that vibration again, it reacts. There are also friendships that feel more intense than entire families. People you meet for the first time and feel like you've known forever. Cayce said this is literal. You met them, lived, suffered, died together, and now the soul brings you close again. And sometimes, when these friendships end abruptly, the body also suffers as if it were a death, because it's not the first time you've lost that person. You lost them before, and the soul, though the mind doesn't know, remembers everything. One of the most heart-wrenching cases Cayce related was of a woman with chronic infertility. Medically, there was no reason she couldn't conceive. But in his readings, Cayce discovered this woman had violently aborted in a past life due to religious conflict. The unborn child's soul never fully left, and in this life, that soul hovered but couldn't re-enter her body. There was an unresolved energetic trauma, and as long as it wasn't healed, the woman's body responded by closing itself off, protecting itself, blocking life. Past life traumas don't just affect organs, they also shape the body's emotional chemistry. Some people panic about being abandoned even if they've never experienced real abandonment. Others feel unworthy of love, though never rejected in this life. Cayce explained these feelings come from experiences so intense, so devastating in previous lives, that the soul carries them as a constant echo, and that echo translates into body chemistry. Cortisol, adrenaline, tachycardia, insomnia, muscle contractions. The soul fears, and the body obeys. Even addictions, Cayce said, can have deep roots in past bonds. A person addicted to alcohol might be repeating an evasion dynamic lived before, or trying to silence guilt so ancient they don't even know it exists. In some cases, the soul seeks anesthesia to avoid feeling what it felt in another life. In others, it seeks punishment, and the body becomes a battlefield, a silent struggle between what you were, what you are, and what you cannot release. And there's something even more unsettling. Cayce spoke of soul pacts activating like traps, promises made in another life dragged into the next. I will never love again. I'll die before being weak again. I will never trust again. And the body obeys that command. It closes the heart, blocks connections, gets sick before yielding, and you don't know why. You just know something inside won't let you move forward. Cayce said these pacts can be undone, but first, they must be recognized, seen, remembered. Because what isn't seen is repeated. Some people, upon meeting their current partner, feel an immediate bond and uncontrollable fear. Cayce explained this could be because in another life, one killed the other. And though they love each other today, the soul retains the memory. The body reacts with tension, pain, contradiction, loving and fearing simultaneously. The soul doesn't forget, neither does the body. Cayce didn't speak of this as immutable. On the contrary, he said knowledge of these bonds was an opportunity, that by recognizing the pain's origin, the body could begin to release it. That by identifying the soul that harmed you or that you harmed, you could break free from the cycle. But for that, you had to look beyond the current face. You had to look with the eyes of the soul. In the next part, we'll delve into how to access these hidden memories, how the body, in altered states of consciousness, can open the doors to the past. Because Cayce taught that you don't need to be a medium to remember. You just need to learn to listen to what your body has been screaming in silence your whole life. There are doors in the mind that don't open with logic, medicine, or conversation. They are doors that only yield when the body decides to speak. Edgar Cayce said everyone has the capacity to remember what they experienced before birth, not with words, but with sensations. That the soul's memory isn't in the head, but in the skin, breath, muscles, stomach. The body is the archive. The body is the witness. But to hear what it says, you must first enter another state, another level, a zone where time dissolves and the impossible becomes evident. Cayce entered a trance to read these memories, but he also taught that anyone can get there through certain practices. You don't need to be a prophet or a seer. You just need to be willing to listen to what you've ignored your whole life. There's a point where the mind falls silent and the body begins telling stories. And many of those stories don't come from this life. They come from a distant, buried past that still beats beneath your skin. One of the most powerful methods Cayce endorsed was deep relaxation, known today as self-hypnosis or guided meditation. When the body enters total relaxation, muscles release, breathing slows, the soul begins to float. Not literally, but energetically. Mental barriers weaken, images start arriving. Contextless emotions, landscapes never seen but recognized, faces provoking immediate physical reactions. That's not the subconscious playing, it's the soul's memory reactivating. In many cases, people started feeling physical pain during these processes. Burning in the chest, a lump in the throat, a pang in the abdomen. Cayce said this signals an emerging memory. The body saying, it was here, something happened here, there's a story here. And if you have the courage to stay there, without escaping, the body begins to tell it, not with words but sensations, sometimes images, sometimes emotions so intense they leave you breathless. But when it passes, when the memory is released, the pain starts to fade. Another method Cayce supported was dream analysis. Dreams, he said, are the soul's symbolic language. And many don't speak of present desires or fears, but of memories. There are dreams recurring since childhood, though logically nonsensical. Places never visited, but feel like home. Situations filling you with anxiety without knowing why. Cayce taught that by noting these dreams, analyzing them, comparing them with current emotions, you can start seeing a pattern. And that pattern leads to a root not in this life. Some people feel real physical pain when dreaming of fire, or wake up crying after a nightmare where they die, though never having experienced anything traumatic. Cayce said in these cases, the boundary between memory and present breaks. The soul expresses itself through the body, using the dream as a channel. Because sometimes, when the body can no longer hold a repressed memory, it leaks into the dream world. And if you learn to look there, to feel without denying, you can begin to understand what your body has carried in silence. There's also physical déjà vu, not just the feeling of having been somewhere before, but intense, unexplained physical reactions. Entering a church and feeling nauseous, visiting a city and being unable to breathe, or touching an ancient object and feeling a deep chill. Cayce said this isn't coincidence, it's vibrational resonance. The soul recognizes the energy of the place, object, situation, and the body confirms it. Because the body doesn't invent, the body remembers. Even physical responses during conversation can be clues. Some people get agitated, emotional, or uncomfortable talking about a certain country, culture, historical period, without knowing why. Cayce explained these spontaneous reactions are memory triggers. Something inside you is trying to emerge. You don't understand it rationally, but your body feels it because you've lived it. And now every time that frequency activates, your nervous system responds as if it were there again. Cayce also taught that certain massages, specific touches, could activate dormant memories. He spoke of body areas concentrating information from other lives. The cervical spine, for example, could release memories of executions, falls, betrayals. The lumbar region holds emotions of abandonment, loss, humiliation. The abdomen stores guilt. And when these areas are stimulated, sometimes the patient bursts into tears or feels an emotion of unknown origin. The body, Cayce said, opens the doors when someone knows where to touch. And it's not just pain that emerges. Sometimes knowledge, talents not learned in this life, also surface. Someone playing an instrument for the first time understands it without explanation. Someone speaking a language never studied. Children recalling specific details from other eras. Cayce said this too is stored in the body, that the soul's wisdom isn't lost, just dormant. And if you enter the right state, your body can remember everything, not just the suffering, but the mastery too. The body is a temple full of symbols, a library written in blood, tension, heartbeats and tremors, and every symptom, every strange reaction, every misplaced emotion is a page asking to be read. Cayce didn't speak of this as fantasy. He spoke as one who had seen hundreds of people freed from pain just by remembering. Because remembering isn't reliving, it's releasing. And the body, when memory returns home, exhales, rests, lets go, and heals. In the next part, we'll dive into how to break the cycle, how to transform this information into real healing. Because Cayce not only revealed the origin of traumas, but also gave keys to deactivate them from the body. Knowing where the pain comes from isn't enough. Understanding the trauma doesn't magically erase it. Remembering is the first step, yes, but if you don't do something with that information, the body stays the same. Still tight, still inflamed, still repeating. Edgar Cayce made it clear, every trauma the body holds can be transformed, but it requires conscious action. It's not enough to look at the past. You have to move it, unlock it. Because if the soul carries unresolved stories, then the body needs rituals, habits, and physical processes to tell the soul, we're not there anymore. It's over. We can let go. The question then is, how do you release what you don't even know you're holding? Cayce taught that the body needs reprogramming from within, not with logic, but with vibration, energy. Because past life traumas aren't written in words, they're encoded in frequencies. So to clear them, you need to enter that frequency and move it. And for that, Cayce provided several tools. None are miraculous, none work overnight, but all touch the soul through the body. The first is the most forgotten, the conscious use of breath. Breathing, but not as you do daily. Breathing deeply, slowly, bringing air to body areas where trauma sleeps. Because breath is a bridge between the physical and spiritual. Cayce said many souls forget to breathe properly in this life, because in the previous one, they died breathless, drowned, strangled, burned. And upon birth, their first instinct is to hold their breath, not trust it. So, teaching the body to breathe again is teaching it that it's safe, that it's not repeating death, that it can live without fear. Another key was movement. Cayce recommended gentle, conscious exercises like yoga, tai chi, free dance, not for the muscles, but for the energy. Because ancient trauma often lodges in areas without movement, stiff hips, blocked neck, closed back. Every unmoving body part accumulates, and if not released, sickens. Moving is speaking to the soul in its language, telling it, this is no longer a cell, this is no longer a cross, this is no longer the death scene. And when the body believes it, it starts to change. Then there are sounds. Cayce valued the use of mantras, chants, sustained vibrations. The body responds to vibration more than words. A specific sound can unlock a tension area years of therapy couldn't touch. There are frequencies the soul recognizes. Some relax, others awaken, others cleanse. And the most powerful thing is that you can emit them. You don't need a machine. Your voice, chest, vocal cords, all are tools to reorganize your energy. Some people start crying uncontrollably while singing certain notes. That's not sadness. That's a layer of the soul falling away. Physical contact is another sacred path. Cayce spoke of the power of human hands to transmit healing. not just through massage, but conscious touch. Touching where it hurts, not to push, but to accompany. The body needs to feel it's not alone with the trauma, doesn't have to carry it silently. Some people relive memories during deep massage. Others feel something detach, like an inner shadow leaving through the skin. Cayce said these reactions shouldn't be repressed. On the contrary, they're signs the soul is releasing some baggage. Water also plays a key role. Hot baths, immersions, simple body cleansing rituals with intention. Because water, according to Cayce, helps dissolve what adheres to the energetic body. It's not just physical hygiene, it's a tool to wash memory. Some people feel immediate relief floating or cry upon immersion. It's not coincidence. It's the soul recognizing an ancient symbol, cleansing, rebirth, rest. The body, in contact with water, can unlock memory without needing clear recall, just by feeling. And then there's writing. Cayce didn't use these exact words, but the principle was the same. Get out what the body holds. There are pains you can't explain verbally, but flow when you write without thinking. Automatic writing, emotion journals, letters you'll never send, all serve to release. Because what isn't said stagnates, and what stagnates rots, and the body carries that. If you write it, get it out of the system, you're telling the body, I don't have to carry this inside anymore. But there's one tool Cayce considered fundamental: forgiveness. Not moral forgiveness, not religious, not energetic forgiveness, releasing the charge binding you to pain, not for the other, for yourself. Because as long as that trauma is linked to an emotion like hatred, guilt, shame, or resentment, your body will keep repeating. Cayce said many people healed physically only after internally forgiving something they didn't even know they were still carrying. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it cuts the cord, bringing it back again and again. And it's not about pretending everything's fine. On the contrary, it's about facing the pain, feeling it, accepting it, and then letting it go. The body needs proof, and the only proof it accepts is experience. When you do something different, change the pattern, allow a new emotion where blockage existed, the body responds. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but always responds. Cayce said the soul doesn't want to suffer, but if you don't listen, it uses the body to get your attention. Every symptom is a message. Every tension is an ancient voice. Every ailment is a part of you asking to be seen. So healing doesn't come from fighting the body or punishing it for being sick. It comes from honoring it as the guardian it is. Because your body isn't your enemy. It's the only one that's been with you through all your lives. And now it's your turn to listen. In the 7th and final part, we'll close the circle. We'll talk about what happens when the body finally lets go, what occurs when the soul heals, and how that transforms not only your health, but your entire reality. What comes now is the quietest, but also the most profound moment. There comes a point on the path where the body becomes still, pain subsides, the chest opens, and there's a silence you've never felt before. It's not emptiness, it's peace. It's as if something left you without you seeing it, something that clung to your back, your stomach, your throat for years, maybe centuries. Edgar Cayce said this moment, when the body finally lets go, cannot be forced. It arrives on its own, but when it comes, it changes everything. It's not just that the symptom disappears. Your way of inhabiting the body is no longer the same. It's like coming home after 1,000 lifetimes. The release of a past life trauma doesn't always feel like an explosion. Sometimes it's so subtle you don't notice until one day you realize what used to hurt doesn't anymore. You no longer have the reaction you always had. You no longer repeat the same story, and you don't know the exact moment it happened, but it did. The body understood. The soul stopped screaming. Cayce spoke of this as a vibrational adjustment. When the soul heals, the body readjusts its frequency. It's like tuning an instrument that's been out of tune for years. Suddenly, everything sounds different. Many testimonials collected after Cayce's reading speak of people cured of incurable diseases, chronic pains vanishing, allergies disappearing, addictions dissolving, not by medication, not by magic formulas, by consciousness, by remembering, by forgiving, by moving trapped energy, because the body, ultimately, needs nothing more than permission to let go. And when you give it, it does so with a precision that seems miraculous. But it's not a miracle, it's soul biology. There's a phenomenon Cayce described in those who healed deep trauma, the feeling of being someone new, without ceasing to be oneself. The face changes, the voice changes, posture changes, the gaze softens, the skin brightens. Because there's no longer an internal war, no longer a story fighting to get out. All that is behind, not because it's erased, but because it's integrated. The body ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a temple, a channel, a clean instrument for who you truly are, beyond the pain. And this moment has an inevitable consequence. Life around also changes, because the healed body emits a different frequency. You no longer attract the same conflicts, choose the same relationships, repeat the same mistakes. Not because you're wiser, but because you're no longer moved by an energy you didn't understand. The soul takes control, but from calmness, and the body responds with clarity. You walk differently, decide differently, even breathe differently. Cayce said real healing isn't linear. Sometimes it hurts more before it hurts less. Sometimes, just as you're about to let go, everything intensifies, but it's part of the process. The body, before releasing, shows you the last thing remaining, the trauma's final scene, the core, the origin. And if you pass through it, on the other side is stillness, a stillness that isn't resignation, it's freedom. The freedom from reacting from a wound, the freedom from constantly needing protection, the freedom of simply being without tension. And here another phenomenon appears. Expansion. When the body is no longer busy surviving, it begins to flourish. Your intuition grows, senses sharpen, creativity awakens, because the energy previously held in pain now flows. Cayce spoke of people who, after healing, discovered hidden talents, gifts brought from other lives finally expressible. They painted, healed, composed, wrote, guided others, not because they learned something new, but because they stopped carrying the old. And by freeing internal space, the true could emerge. Your relationship with time also changes. You no longer run, flee, chase yourself. It was said that deep healing connects you to a slower, more real perception, because the body is no longer in alarm mode, no longer needs protection from ghosts. Now it can inhabit the present without fear, and that is felt in digestion, sleep, heart rhythm. Life ceases to be a fight and becomes presence, not because everything is perfect, but because you stopped being a slave to a past you didn't even know you carried. And then naturally, you begin to thank your body. You no longer criticize it, punish it, because you understand everything it did out of love, to protect you, sustain you. The pain wasn't an enemy, it was a signal. It was the most honest language the soul could find. And now, after so long, after so many turns, you can tell it, I heard you, and the body feels it and responds with relief. If you're also one of those who stay until the end, comment 100% and join the faithful team. Edgar Cayce left a legacy that doesn't speak of religions, dogmas, or punishments. He spoke of memory, vibration, purpose, and above all, compassion. Because understanding that your body holds traumas from other lives isn't a condemnation. It's an opportunity to heal things you didn't even know needed healing. And once you do, you not only free yourself, you also free your lineage, your bonds, the souls traveling with you life after life. Healing your body is healing a story that didn't begin with you, but can indeed end with you. So if something hurts without reason, if something weighs on you without explanation, if something in you repeats despite your efforts to change, perhaps it's time to look deeper, to listen to what the body cannot shout, but can show. Because the soul never forgets, but it can forgive. And when it does, the body becomes what it always should have been, a channel for freedom. And right there, That's where a new life begins. And now you know. Your body isn't just you, it's also everything you have been. It's the echo of every life, every death, every broken promise, and every lost love. It's living proof that the soul doesn't begin at birth or end at death, that everything unresolved returns. And it returns not as punishment, but as opportunity. Because every symptom, every misplaced emotion, every sensation you don't understand is a part of you asking to be seen, heard, released. Edgar Cayce left us a brutal but luminous truth. Your story doesn't begin when you're born, and your healing doesn't end when the pain disappears. Your body holds the key. And if you learn to read it, if you dare to feel without fleeing, you can transform that burden into path, that wound into wisdom, that cycle into freedom. Because the soul doesn't forget, but it can heal. And when that happens, everything changes. This is not the end. It's the true beginning.